Dr. Cam, thank you for being here. And even more importantly, Lexi, welcome.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. So it's a surprise to me. I thought it was just going to be Cam and I. And as I open up the room, her daughter Lexi is here too. So Dr. Cam can only tell us everything that's really true, because I know one thing, as teens, they will call you out if something's not true.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting nothing but the truth here
That
today.
is 100%.
So Lexi, have you been on any other podcasts with your mom yet?
Well, not me. Like, she interviews me, but I also did a panel last summer about adoption, about the topic we're talking about.
Yeah. She's been my guest a few times, and they tend to be the most listened to episodes.
Yeah.
That's where you get all the juicy information.
Right?
Awesome. And Lexi, feel free to come closer to the mic too, if you'd like. Cool. So to get us started, the first question I want to ask both you, and feel free to answer however you want, is what's one thing that you're struggling with currently? And what's one thing you've both overcome recently?
One of the things that we both have been struggling with is school.
Yes. Let's hear about that.
Well, the school situation it's going okay. We just switched my school situation. I'm now a homeschooler now instead of going to public school. So that has been a jump for the both of us.
And has that been a jump because there was so much of this year being homeschooled and it's just able to stay, or?
It made the transition easy. The
Mm.
problems that we've been having have gone further back than COVID. It just
It
made
was
it.
just the right timing.
Yeah.
And now, since I was home like for half of the school year, it just made sense to do it. It didn't make sense to do it sooner because I was not home. But now being home and working from home for a year made it actually easier.
Yeah, the transition was a lot smoother. But I think a lot of it too, we just realized, I mean, it was after a lot of heartfelt conversations. And it was really Lexi's idea. It was her convincing me to take on that responsibility that I was a little nervous about. But the whole thing was, she loves to learn and she hated school. And so school.
And that's a weird combination.
Right? I know.
School's about learning, and she wasn't. It was about misery. And then she would afterwards
learn to like hate learning.
Yes.
That's what I was learning.
But she learns, she's such an avid learner.
But I learned differently than like they want me to learn.
Yeah.
It's very structured to one type of learning. And if you're.
And I'm not that type of learning. Like that's.
Exactly.
And I did not fit that box. And so it was just not the right fit for me.
That's fair. And right now, I'm sure one of the cons right away would be, oh, you don't see your friends, but you're probably done school earlier in the day because you just get through it really quickly.
Yeah, I do finish my school earlier than most people do, and I don't need that whole like 9 to 4 every day.
And she's social, so I'm not worried about that at all. She's
and
very
I
good at reaching out.
still see my friends, and I still talk to my friends.
But Dr. Cam, that's a big undertaking on you. Where did you find the time?
So it actually, I realized after talking to a lot of people that the responsibility when they're in high school is less on me. So it was really a lot of more work at the forefront, where it was finding what program we were going to use, finding one that worked for her. We're still doing some tweaking here and there to find the right fit, but it's her school.
It's my decision.
So during the day, it's up to her. I'm not a nagger. I mean, I am a how's it going her, and checking in.
Which is worse.
Yeah, but it's her responsibility.
It's on me.
Yep.
And
I'm sure there's some days I would want to be homeschooled when I was in high school. High school is tough. And the nice thing about being homeschooled is you avoid all the extra parts that you don't like.
Well, it's nice and refreshing. And I'm still getting used to me controlling my own schoolwork because I'm so used to having the structure and having people control my schoolwork and control what I do. But now I'm getting used to that. It was really hard at first to just have it on me because I'm used to having like structure, like this is what we're doing, this is the lesson, and now I have to pick.
I've asked if I should do that, and she did not want to do that, and I don't either, because I don't want it to be about that.
Yeah.
But I think part of it too is finding stuff that she's actually interested in. And she had come back going, is this working for you? And she's like, I'm not used to being asked that.
Yeah.
Like, how do we adapt
Yeah.
to you? Because in my mind, she should want to be learning because it's interesting,
Yeah.
not forced to be learning because she has to.
I have to.
The thing that I love is that she can go as fast as she wants. I keep saying we, I'm not doing any of it. I mean, for
Hopefully.
me, it's just making sure that, she's learning what she needs to learn and staying on top of that
Yeah.
without being a nag and getting me in,
Yeah.
told her, I'm like, I did not sign up to be your headmistress. That's not my
Yeah.
goal. So making sure that we're moving forward, that's the biggest challenge.
Now, Dr. Cam, I remember when we last spoke, I asked, I'm like, your and your daughter's relationship kind of reminds me of the Gilmore Girls. And we both laughed and you said, yeah, pretty much. So if you want to give the audience a little bit of a taste of your guys' relationship and how it began, just to give everyone a sense of why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our story goes back when
I was 6 months old. But
Well, even before that.
even before that, like you.
Yeah. So I made the decision as a single woman to become a single parent and adopt. And so it was one of those things where I'd always wanted to be a parent. And I kind of put the stake in the sand. And then I
when
went.
I hit this certain age, I'll think about it.
And
then,
a year after that, I decided, hey, wait a second, maybe this is the right time.
And how old were you at the time?
So I was 36. So I wasn't even a young mom at that point, right? And so I decided to do it. And the response that I got back, particularly from my family, was like, it's about time. Like, of course.
because all your sister has
Yeah. And I've always loved kids and that's something
and
I've
you
always
love your
wanted.
nieces and nephews.
I do. And so I decided to adopt from Guatemala for a lot of different reasons. And the process felt like it took forever. And then all of a sudden you get this call saying, okay, we have a baby for you. And you're like, already? Oh my God, what do I do? And I remember calling my friend from the grocery store because I had to go pick Lexi up and calling my friend from the grocery store going, what do they eat? Like it was, my head just went exploded. But my mom, my dad, my sister, my stepdad, we all went to Guatemala to meet Lexi.
Yeah.
And I still remember. Do you want me to tell the story or do you want to tell the
No,
story?
Tell the story. It's your story.
So I love telling the story because when you went to Guatemala, everyone was adopting, all the parents adopting went to the same hotel. It's kind of
Like
where
the
they
Sotown.
Yeah. And so the lobby was just full of Americans with Guatemalan nannies and these adorable Guatemalan babies. Just the whole thing. It was kind of like a maternity ward,
Like a
It's
movie.
it was crazy. I'm like, this is kind of
This
weird,
is
but
like a
it's great. So you go up to your room and I get a call saying, your daughter is downstairs. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know who my daughter is. She's downstairs. So going down that elevator, just like in this sheer panic of like, oh my gosh, I've got to be honest. I'm like, what if I don't like the baby? What if I don't bond with the baby? Seriously,
These are normal things to think.
And I'm
Worried about not having that maternal instinct or that maternal bonds.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Right. And I remember the doors opening and I kind of did a quick scan of the room and my eye went right to this one baby. And I was like, oh my God, that baby's beautiful. That is the cutest baby. Whoever gets that baby is the luckiest person in the world. And then walks me over to that baby.
That was me.
So
Love at first sight.
it was love
Yeah.
at first sight. 100%.
You didn't look at any other baby.
It was amazing. So that is where our story started.
Yeah.
And it's been a crazy
Mhm.
experience ever since.
Yeah.
Well, Lexi, you're 15 now.
Yeah.
So this is all you've known.
Yeah.
And you were 6 months at the time when your mom adopted you? So let's take it back. So first question I have, Cam, you were the only single one of your friends by the sounds of it, not married, no kids. What was that feeling like?
It was difficult because you kind of envision your life and you think everyone just gets handed that life. Like you just think, of course, I'm going to be married and,
Have a
those
husband.
white picket fence and the 2 kids and the dog, like that.
Boy and girl.
Boy and girl, right. And that's just handed to you. And I'm going through my life going, this is not being handed to me. And my life is kind of going in these different crazy turns and everything. And it's fun, but I really want a child. And it was one of those aha moments where I was like, what's stopping me?
Yeah.
Why can't I? Like, I
So
feel
what
like
was it? Was it just like taboo?
well, it was, I will say, a few people are like, you're never going to find a husband now, which I
Why?
haven't, but,
No,
you know,
no, she has not.
but, you know, it's not because of that. I wasn't before then either. And it's just a matter of, you know, thinking about, can I do this? What am I getting myself into? But there was just this pull where I was like, I was born to be a mom. And that was something I really wanted in my life. And I was not willing to not have that in my life. And so it was this weird, scary decision. But once I made the decision, I don't recall ever second guessing it or looking back. Like it just
No.
was. And that's the way it was supposed to be. And the support, even from people I didn't even know, were just, it was so
So
amazing. They just love the story, you know,
Like our whole family is our support
extremely
system.
supportive. Yeah.
And you said your siblings all had kids and everything, so you were bringing Lexi into a pretty full family of lots of
Yeah.
cousins.
I have one sibling, my sister, and she's got her kids. And it was funny because I had a really close, I still do, but I had a really close relationship to them from their birth on. So it's kind of like a third parent in a lot of ways. And I remember them being really excited and saying, do it. And I said, you do realize though, that I will not have as much time with you guys. And they're like, oh.
Never mind, don't go.
Yeah, no. They were so excited and they spent so much time with her. And I remember the summer, I brought her home during the summer. And I was home that whole summer because my job actually at the time let me take maternity leave. And so I had this time to bond. And I remember my nephew who was like, he was like in elementary school at the time.
Because
Him and his two friends would come over to the house just to play with Lexi and just hang out all summer long. It was awesome. So she's been pretty fully much immersed. And they live down the street from us. So they're basically siblings. They fight like siblings.
Yeah, we fight like siblings.
So you say you had a lot of support. Were there any naysayers at all questioning what you were doing?
Not to my face at the moment. It's funny since then, now that they've seen that it's all worked out for the best. I've heard people go, we thought you were so crazy. We thought you were insane. They've told me that now, but no one during the time.
No.
It's interesting because some people just didn't understand adoption. I remember one woman saying, who's lovely and nice, and she was, you know, trying to have this conversation. It was coming from a bad place, but she was like, won't it be weird disciplining somebody else's child? And I was like, that's not somebody, it's my child.
It's your child.
What do you mean? So I think it was, you know, some interesting things of not understanding that. People meet us now, though. And as we always say, like, we were
So meant to be together. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, we were pretty much intended to be in a scary way.
Yeah.
But
And I'm sure there was naysayers. They were thinking age. They were thinking no partner. They were thinking adopting from another country. I'm sure people have had their thoughts. People are so jaded and
I have
closed off.
no doubt I did not get any of that to my face.
Good.
I
I bet you people
a lot.
that though, but
I
Yeah.
have no doubt they did, but I will say I felt so incredibly supported.
Yeah.
The perception I get from you too, even if those things were coming and saying to your face, I feel like you already had your reality designed that you wouldn't even let it come into your head.
No, that's
Great
true.
way
I
to
may
be.
not have even heard it. You're very
Oh.
right. It was what it was, and there was no turning back.
You had your decision made and you knew what you were doing.
Yep.
and you
100%.
don't care about other people.
And you know what? Best decision I've ever made in my life.
So how does adoption work? Because I know it's very prevalent in the United States, but I don't know of really anyone that's been adopted or have adopted in Canada. And I don't know if that's just kind of my realm of expanders in my life. So how does it work? So why Guatemala? How does it work? What's the process? How long does it take? I want to know it all.
That's a great
Great
question.
question.
So I kind of looked at different countries, and back then there was a lot more countries open than there are now. Guatemala.
Why is that?
Guatemala is closed. There was a lot of corruption. And there was, even when we were there, we weren't allowed to leave the hotel because there was a lot of fear of kidnapping, taking the kids. There was a lot of like black market. It's just a lot of issues.
And same with like, because you wanted to adopt again after me.
I was going to adopt again.
Borders closed.
Well, right. And right around the time I was looking to adopt again, a single woman who had adopted from Russia put her son on a plane to just send him back. Was like, I don't want him. And I don't know what. Right after that, the borders kind of closed and it became harder for single women at the time. When I adopted, being a single mom wasn't really an issue internationally. So one of the
Right.
reasons I did go internationally is domestically it was a lot harder as a single mom.
Just like different norms.
Different norms. And I think a lot
People
of,
have different opinions and
Yeah.
they're religious.
and a lot of times the parents can pick who the birth mom can pick who the parents were. And they always tend to,
Like have like the couples, the husband and wife type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So when I went to Guatemala, I actually met several single moms. I think the ones that had the most difficulty were the single dads. And
Yes.
I remember, so for me, the process was basically, I guess it almost ended up being about 9 months between starting the process and bringing her home.
Was
Or
it-
not
was-
bringing her home, but meeting her. What?
Like waiting.
Yeah. I mean, once you meet her and you've got to give her back. Yeah. I mean, that's like, here's my child back. Yeah, that was really, really
So
difficult.
you met her, but then you had to go back home.
Yeah. So you go through the whole process. It's a lot of just paperwork. Lots and lots of paperwork to prove that you're not crazy.
You're not psychotic.
Yeah. And some of the stories they told me, it was like people that I was like, who did you reject? And they told me some stories. I'm like, oh my God. Like
There's reasons why these.
there's reasons. Like one of them, they were making a little corner in what they had cats, and each cat had their own room, and they didn't have enough room for the baby, so they were giving a baby a corner in one of the cats' rooms. I'm like, I hope you did not approve that. And they're like, no, we didn't approve that one.
Oh my God.
So you go through all of this paperwork, and then it's just a waiting game. It's waiting, 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 waiting. And I remember getting to the point where people were like, because everyone, at work knew, and they'd be asking me all the time. And I got to the point where like, listen. And I sent out just a huge note to everyone. I said, listen, I love so much that you're so excited for me. And I'm so excited, but I am so frustrated right now. I don't know how long it's going to be. And I'll let you guys know. The next day I got a call.
You look hilarious to everyone.
Yeah.
You look funny.
So
You just made this big announcement, like, stop asking.
It's going to be. And then I'm like,
stop
run, it's today. Yeah. So I did this quick call. We all booked tickets. Guatemala, and there's a few reasons I picked Guatemala at the time. One, it's a close flight. It was very close. Two, a lot of people know us, don't really even know she's adopted. They don't know she's adopted. So it's not like
to
that.
assume.
Yeah, it's not that drastic of
The assumption.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of reasons, and the people there are just beautifully and lovely and nice. But we popped over there and they dropped us off. We stayed in the hotel just that whole time and hung out. And then I had to return her and go home. And so that's when she was a month.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
She was a month old at that point. Then at 4 months old, I went back, just me, and hung out with her again, and then had to give her back.
So like in May, because
Yeah.
my birthday's in June.
And then in 6 months,
In August.
Yeah, in August, we all went down, and that's when I was able to actually adopt her and bring her home.
Wow. What a beautiful process.
It was
Yes.
pretty darn amazing.
Was it lengthy?
It felt like forever, but they were great about it too. Every month I got a picture and a doctor's report, her and what was going on. So, and I'd send her stuff, and I sent her like tapes of me
I
talking
didn't know
so she
that.
could hear my voice. Yeah. So did stuff like that.
And then for you, Lexi, you don't know anything. You're a baby. So, but at what point, like, how old were you where you realize I'm adopted? Like, I have a great life, but yeah, I'm adopted and understood what happened.
No. We always talked about it. Like it was never like a
Yeah, there was never an
Never
aha moment.
moment.
It was what it was.
Yeah.
And I have this book of her.
This huge book, and you put pictures in there. There's a picture of my birth family, my foster family, and all the process up until August.
Yeah. So she likes to share that. But it was never anything.
Like, aha.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm adopted.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a mom, I'm always, checking in and making sure she's okay. We all as a family went back to Guatemala. and we took a trip. Do you want to talk about that?
And
How old were you?
I was 10.
And was this the first time you were back since?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was. I was in elementary school
Yeah.
at that point.
She'd been talking about for a while. And so we always take family trips. So we made a trip to Guatemala. The thing is, we rented this amazing Airbnb, like on the water with like cooks and all this
I was
stuff. And
so-
she was like, this is what you took it away from.
Yeah,
Like, no, that's not how we
But it was kind of an eye opener because, like, now, like, I understand now, like,
Yeah, I think it helped
just
her.
the climate change. Like, it was a huge thing, seeing what I would have had.
Yeah. You look
Your life would be very, very
No.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think seeing the poverty
Yeah.
there was it's astounding. I mean, you look at a place and it looks from our eyes, it looks like, oh my gosh, look at that big trash heap. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's actually a town where people are living. And it's really,
Really,
really
sad. And I wish that they didn't close Sparta because there's so much kids there
that need.
that need help.
I actually asked somebody in the hotel, I said, how do you feel about all these Americans coming and adopting the babies? And she was like, I am so thankful that they have an opportunity to have a
Yeah.
better life.
And that's what my birth mom wanted for me.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Wanted to.
How old was the birth mom when she was having Lexi?
18.
Yeah, I figured it'd be close to your age.
Yeah. 18.
What do you think about that, Lexi? Like, think 3 years from now, having a baby, that's a crazy
No,
idea.
I could never do that. Like, be hard. Yeah, it'd be hard.
My grandma was 18 when she had my mom, and my mom was only 21.
Wow.
Wow.
And I mean, here you have the resources in Guatemala. She had to work. You can't.
No.
You can't do that. So.
And I'm sure that was heartbreaking to your birth mom too. Like, as much as I'm sure she wanted to keep things like financially she knew, like you just said, Lexi, she knew you'd have a better life.
Yeah, and she was a single mom. Like, the dad was nowhere near a picture.
Yeah.
Like,
It was an enormously huge act of love. There's
I was
no
gonna say,
other way to
huge
describe
sacrifice.
that. It was a big, big act of love.
It's the only way to see it, and it's heartbreaking to her, but she's putting you first completely.
So
And
in
I'm sure
a way, she's got 3. She's got a birth mom, she had a foster mom, and she has her mom.
well, I still call you.
I am your mom.
Yeah.
But she
and who is the foster mom?
So she stayed for the 6 months. She stayed with a foster family. So we met her, and I have pictures of her with Lexi and the family. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Dr. Cam, how do you allow like Lexi's culture to still be part of your guys' life? Because obviously American culture is very different.
Yeah, so we've done, from the day she was born, I've had a lot of Guatemalan just books and dolls and
decorations, and we get more every time we go.
yeah, and when we went, we have a picture, they went and they dressed us, both of us up in all the garb and all the garments, and she has all that. We've got all that, but what was interesting is when we went to Guatemala, one thing that was just blatant to me was we were walking through the mountains and these little kids came by that were about the same age as Lexi was at the time. And of course, facially, they looked a lot alike because they're Guatemalans with the same color and features. But these kids were in bare feet in the traditional garb, carrying, carrying baskets. And Lexi got her little haircut and her little hat and her trendy little clothes. And she's like, oh, this is so weird. I was like, there was no similarity in terms of that. And I think that was interesting
because I like going there, like, you guys stuck out more than I did. Like, going there, like, people, like, were looking at you. Like, people were not probably looking at me because they're like, oh. Because I look like almost all.
Was it cool? Was it? How
it
did
was
it
fun
feel?
seeing people that looked like me.
Yeah.
You don't see that where you are.
I have never seen. I have met several people.
Yeah,
from Guatemala, but at that point in my life, like, I have never.
We actually met a family on the way back when we were bringing her back. We met a family on the plane, that was coming back from visiting second child they were adopting from there. And they ended up living just a few blocks away from us. And so every time we would go to like a community event, we saw them. I mean, in fact, I still talk to them.
Yeah.
So we saw them all the
And I
time.
went to school with them.
Yeah, they went to school together. They were in the
In
same
middle
class.
school.
And
What
everyone
a
thought they
small
were
world.
Yeah, everyone thought they were siblings.
Because we look
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah. So yeah, to be in the same class, it was pretty crazy. So it was one of those things too where I knew people and they have communities where you're like, if you want to bring your kids and do that, she never was interested in doing that. It's not, it's
Like to keep her in a similar community, but yeah, she like this. I'm sure.
I
thought, like,
even
this is
if
my
I'm
life.
even if I am adopted, that does not define me. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's how our story started and it is who we are, but
but
it's
it's
not.
not like what defines me.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't play a big
Well, I think it leads a great question and debate around nature versus nurture. It seems like it's very nurture for you guys.
Yeah, what's kind of crazy is the things that are definitely nature we're still a lot alike in.
Yeah.
So that's
Really?
when we're like we were totally meant to be.
In what
But
way?
Just I mean, what we like, you see a lot of families and their kids are nothing like them in terms of what they like or their behavior, anything.
Sure.
And where she's my mini me.
I
And
Yeah.
sure.
not in a she's taken on all my
No, I would
she's
never
so
take on-
individual. Like she's so unique in herself, but she's unique in herself in similar ways to myself, right? So I think
And a
it's
lot of the hobbies we did was
yeah, like some things which I never pushed her into. Like we've always done a lot of different things and I've always given her options. And she's leaned towards a lot of the things that I ended up doing when I was a kid too, that she
but you
really
didn't.
loved.
But I pushed her on them, and you did.
She didn't like them when she was younger. And when she was older and I was like, whatever you want to do, she ended up doing stuff that drawn to it. So it was just interesting.
Like you said, just meant to be together.
It was. Absolutely. I think one of my favorite things now and one of the things we love to do is tell our story because we want to encourage
Encourage
other people to do the same.
Adoption. And I'm thinking, like, in my future, I may, and if it's not even international, like, I may adopt in the future. Because I know a lot of kids need homes out there, like, a lot do.
Adoption is a beautiful thing. And I think sometimes it's really hard though. As you said, the process to even get accepted, it's lengthy and it's tiring. I think a lot of parents probably don't have it in them.
No.
Or a lot of want to be parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might feel very overwhelming. And for that, I say just take one little step at a time.
Because a lot of people have to.
Yeah. One step at a time. It was
Why don't you think people adopt more?
I feel like more and more are doing it now. I think, and I understand this when you're married, I totally get wanting to have your kids together. Like, let's create kids together. Totally understand that. As a single mom, it didn't make any sense when there are so many kids out there. I don't know. I think the process is daunting to a lot of people. I think there's still a lot of unknowns around it and, who you're going to get. But I've talked to parents with biological kids that had the exact same fears I did. Just because they birth them doesn't mean it's going to be this awesome. They're going to immediately feel attached and in love with the baby, right? So I think there's all of those things. So I don't know.
Fair. And what are still some taboos around adoption that sometimes you hear people that are not true at all?
I think as a parent, one of the fears, which I've not experienced
No.
yet, but it's always kind of in the back of my mind a little bit, is that, that Lexi will be like, okay, I want to go find my birth mom, which we've always talked about. And we're always like, whatever you want to go back, you want to do it. I'm 100% behind
That's hard.
whatever you want to do. I'm not going to take it personally because I feel that strong in
Yeah.
our connection. But I would imagine there's people that may not have that strong connection. And I hear, when particularly at this age, when there's a lot of conflict, that'll come up. Like, well, you're not my real mom, and all of a sudden
I
you'll
never
say
say
stuff
that.
or you'll, or there's that curiosity where you're feeling like I don't belong. And I've seen kids who are feeling like my family doesn't look and sound and feel like me. So I want to figure out where I come from and where I belong so I fit in.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot of that. And I've heard, kids that go through this self-identity kind of crisis of like, who am I? And so that's something that we're always aware of. And I'm hoping I've created a safe enough place that if you feel that way, you're comfortable talking to me about it.
Yeah. That would never come up though for me. You know.
Yeah.
And Lexi, anything like that ever comes up for you that you fear or you're worried about?
I don't know. Because people can take it differently. Because like people have their different view on things. And I don't know like how people.
Are you more worried about other people's views, not yours?
Because I barely, like, I don't tell a lot of people. Like, that's just.
And you don't even think about it.
I don't think about it. Like, when I first meet someone, that's not what I say. Like, I don't share that, like, with people. There's people who I have known for years.
And I think you've met other kids that are adopted too. So you kind of share that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's people that we know, and I just kind of assume people
Think that my, like,
know or.
my dad's. Also, people like to make assumptions that, like.
Well, it was funny, yeah.
Oh, do they make assumptions that your dad is Guatemalan?
Well, yeah, but then someone just said, but he is. But he is. I'm like, I guess the assumption is that my husband was, Guatemalan.
And just not in the picture anymore, yeah.
They just assume that.
People just assume that.
Yeah, like people think, oh, her dad must be.
So it's.
Because you do look like your mom a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, girl. No, we do. I mean, it's easily, and we've known people for years that when they hear our story, are like, what? I had no idea.
That's so funny. I guess to switch gears, I want to talk about parenting teens because Dr. Cam, that's what you're an expert in, and that's what you talk about.
Yeah.
And coach and teach on. I was a teen, and my mom probably could have used your coaching and your expertise. So talk to me. How did you get involved in that?
So it really even started when I was like your age, like Lexi's age, where I was a very insecure, awkward, fighting with my mom all the time. Just, now pretty typical teen. But then every teen feels like they're isolated and alone. No one understands, right? And I remember feeling all of that. Yet I was still drawn to counseling at that point. So I was a peer counselor. And
for other peers?
Yeah. So here I am completely clueless and feeling insecure, but I'm going and counseling other people because that for some reason was just something that was always.
I think those are the best counselors.
Yeah. So I totally get that. Right. And I think some of that I still tap into that because I was a very self-reflective kid. And I remember my first client coming in and it was this girl that was the girl that you would walk onto the other side of the hallway if she was coming down because you were worried that she's going to like punch you or beat you up. You know who I'm talking about? Like
mean girl.
Bigger and scowl on her face and just like, you just didn't want to mess with her,
like
right?
Girl.
Yeah. And she walks in for me to counsel her. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to kill me. I am so nervous. I'm so scared. And I started doing what they taught, just how to listen and ask the questions. And all of a sudden, she started talking about and communicating exactly what I have been feeling in my head. And she's feeling the same way. And I'm like, and I don't think it really like dawned on me that much then, but it was just like, she feels the same way I do. When we're so different. And, fast forward many years later, when I decided to go back to psychology and get my PhD, and I'm teaching adolescent psychology. And I had several parents in my class, and they started coming up to me and saying, oh my gosh, what we're learning in this class is completely changing our own relationship with our kids. Like we get them now. And I realized, wait a second, why don't parents know this information? Because we just misunderstand teens. So I always say teens act out because they feel misunderstood. And they feel misunderstood because
they are misunderstood. She says that like every single.
Do you agree with that, Lexi?
She could actually do some of my talk. In fact, I got to share real quick too. So one talk I did was, and her babysitter at the time was there, who had her own kids who were teenagers and had grown up. And Lexi was in elementary school. And so she was over there and her teacher was kind of like yelling at her kids. And Lexi goes, my mom said that doesn't work. Oh, you know that. Like she shot them goes, she doesn't work. And she was like, I know, but I still, it's just funny because she could just so review.
I love how the mom's like, I'm aware this doesn't work, but I'm still
I
going to
know.
do it. It's almost
you
like
listened. You
get your
listened to
frustration.
my mom. She told you it doesn't work. And she's like this little kid. So that was one of those that just kind of kicked it off. And ever since then, I didn't dive into it right away. It
No.
just became this slowly growing thing where people knew that I understood teenagers. And I started mentoring teens. I started having friends and family and coworkers ask me questions about their teens.
You started, yeah.
And I just grew from
Yeah.
there.
But she started her business before she did where she's at now. She wanted to do her business a couple years ago before what she does now. And it was like the same concept.
It was.
But she just,
I wasn't sure how to start it then.
yeah.
So I
Fair.
did try it once and got freaked out because I'm a single mom with a mortgage and a kid that's getting closer and closer and closer to college. So I went back to work and then got laid off, took my severance and said, I'm doing this again.
You're
'cause
like,
this
"Thank
is
you."
just what, I thanked them. I was like, this is what I meant to do.
Yeah.
I meant to do this. And at that point I had my own teenager who could correct me if I got it wrong. Because she'll be like, nope, you're completely wrong on that. I'm like, okay.
Ugh, what a blessing.
But I think, how would you describe our relationship?
It's pretty, like, we probably have a good relationship.
Do we fight a lot?
No. I don't think
We argue.
I'm sure you guys have
argue.
disagreements.
No, we definitely argue. We argue on a regular basis.
You're two
Yeah,
women, of course
we
you have
argue.
to.
We
It's really
get
girls and
we
moms.
get emotional, but
You're wrong.
we're wrong. Yeah, typically I am wrong. Actually, she's got an incredible memory. So if it's up against something about memory, I'm like, I can see. But it's not these knockout, drag out going on. It is like an argument, and we get through it.
Argument that was the Chris.
Well, that was, she likes to tell the story of, it was like 2 Christmases ago and I'm decorating.
Wait.
But let me tell you, it was right after I got laid off. I'm in not a good mental state.
No.
She was coming at me.
Being
in a
close
way
to
that-
Christmas?
Yeah. And her comment, I was hearing as being very judgmental and it was annoying me, right?
I was judgmental.
She wasn't trying. That's how I was perceiving it. It was
Mhm.
definitely
That's what you were
coming to
hearing.
me as being snarky and annoying. And I took the Christmas tree and threw it over the balcony. And I was like, fine. And I just threw it over. And then I had to go back and pick it back up and bring it back up. So we laughed at that.
was the right Christmas because we had 2 Christmas.
Yeah, they were like, we have the fake ones. I swore I'd never get fake ones because I love the real ones. But when it's up to me to keep it watered and everything else, one Christmas, I was like, that's never going to happen. It was like a dead twig by the end of Christmas. Yeah. So
That
was-
imagery, though, of like you throwing the Christmas tree, I've been not a Christmas tree throwing, but I've been with my mom in an argument and she's and she's going to listen to this podcast and be like, are you telling me?
I know. I know my mom doesn't like me sharing stuff like that either. But the thing is, I think we all do. And we have those, we have those moments. That was on purpose. We have those moments where we're just spread so thin and we just don't have enough. And that's why I go back to that moment and I say, you know what? In the moment, I was really angry at Lexi. But when I reflect back, it had nothing to do with her. It was 100%.
Of course not.
to
You're
do with
so
me.
stressed.
That's why we can laugh about it now because I went back and I said, I handled that really inappropriately.
Is that what you do for your clients too? Do you tell that story?
I have told that story to some people, but I know you love that story. So I think my mom loves that story too because she's like, see, you do it too.
Yeah.
I think what I try to help parents do, it's not about not ever losing your mind, right? Or not ever doing that. It's being mindful of when you do it, to do it as infrequently as possible, to separate if you're in that mode, to not try to fix things, to separate until you're calm. And if you do, go back and make amends and apologize and move on from there. Because if you try to sit in the I'm right and I'm not going to admit I'm ever wrong and I'm just going to like pretend it never happened or that I'm still right, that's just going to separate and get it really ugly.
You nowhere.
And this is the relationship I want for all parents where you can have a great relationship and we come home and it's joyful. Our house is joyful.
In some households and some moms and dads are thinking coming home to a joyful household. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Have you
with a
ever seen
teenager.
With
That's
teenagers?
what
No.
they tell them.
I know she's helpful
And they're like,
respectful and
"Ooh, my
kind. So it's all those things you want your child to be. She is, and I've never taken her phone away from her ever.
No, I don't think you have.
I've never grounded her. I don't do the yelling, we get in arguments, but I don't parent that way. And you can have
And
a
you never
child.
did that when I was younger.
No. And so I just want to encourage people that you don't have, in fact, doing that makes it less likely that you're going to have this relationship and your child is going to help and be kind.
Don't
And
put a wall between. Don't push your kids away.
yeah, tell us, what do teens need from their parents?
It's now.
Well, Lexi, what does your mom do that you see that other parents don't do, that you think your mom is doing right?
No,
You don't have enough bad examples.
no, I don't. I don't really.
Lexi, once the pandemic is over, you need to go hang out with your friends who get in arguments with parents and be around that, to be thankful for what you have.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I was going to say, listening to your other interviews, one of the things that you said that completely with light bulb dawned on me, you said that when teenagers are arguing with their parents, that's actually a sign of respect.
Yep.
And I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So when teens argue, it is a sign that they actually respect you enough that they need to change your opinion. And so if they're sitting there and trying to get you to agree with them, that means they need you and want you to agree with them. It's important to them, right? For it to be acceptable. The other kids that just say, yeah, whatever, and go up and do it anyways, that's the disrespect. So I think it's really important for parents to realize that a lot of times even the eye roll or the disrespectful tone is not coming from that place of disrespect. It's coming from a place of trying to communicate, and it's coming from a place of trying to have a voice, which we ultimately want our kids to have a voice and to self-advocate and to speak up for themselves. That's their attempt to do so. And so we don't want to shut it down. When we just shut it down, we're basically saying, you don't have a voice that's worth being heard. Instead, it's teaching them how to make an impactful, effective argument and how to get their points across. And it can get heated. It's not the argument, it's the problem. It's how do you resolve it? And do you resolve it? And so it's teaching them how to resolve an argument, not to not have an argument.
And you like this stage. This is your favorite stage.
I love the stage. Yeah, great.
Because I remember being a teenager, me and my dad debated a lot, and always in a respectful way, but we always saw different sides of things and always wanted to debate them, and often at the dinner table. And me and my dad used to sit across from each other, my mom in between us, and she couldn't wait to leave the dinner table because she always perceived it as like, why are you arguing so much? Why can't we just sit and have a nice meal? And she would rather just quiet and calm. And me and my dad were like, we're not arguing. Like, what are you talking about? They were so fine.
Really excited conversation.
And we still do that. But now, and again, my mom's going to listen to this. If I disagree with something with my mom, she hates it. She doesn't like the confrontation. She doesn't like debating or arguing. And I'm sure when I was younger, I saw it as a way like, you don't want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
Now I just realize she's just not an arguing type. But yeah, it's interesting. I know a lot of teens that the ones who are like, yep, whatever, and go upstairs, those are the ones that you got to worry about.
Yeah. And
They feel controlled and silenced.
I mean, and a lot of kids do. And I think parents feel like they need to control. It comes out of fear. It comes out of love. It comes out of a lot of different things. The worry that they're going to be perceived as a bad parent if their kids do something and they didn't control it. Right. So when we do that, though, we end up pushing our kids away and we prevent them from learning how to think critically. And I think we need to change the way we're perceiving their argument. It's not about them not respecting us and just whatever you say, I'm going to just argue. Maybe it is, but it's them trying to figure out how they think for themselves. So I know it's really hard, but I'm always telling parents, don't take it personally.
And it's hard because I know some of our arguments want to.
What are some other things that parents are doing that they could be doing a lot better to understand their teens? And through some of your counseling with them, what are some of those aha moments?
Some of the aha moments I've seen are giving kids more ownership. The fear is if I let my kid have ownership, all they're going to do, they're going to make all of the bad decisions. And
no good one.
no good ones, just bad decisions. And so if I don't ride them 24/7, they're just gonna, melt into their bed playing video games and their eyes are gonna bulge out of their heads, or, their teeth are gonna fall out of their head, or, all of these things. And it's really interesting when I see parents get that aha moment that it's about giving them the opportunity to have full ownership. And that once they know without a doubt that you're not going to grab it back, because that's not ownership, right? When you're not going to grab it back and it fully is their responsibility, teens actually want to make good decisions. But when you own it, when your parent owns the good decision, they're not going to, they need to think on their own. So you basically taken that off the shelf and they got to pick from all the other ones. But when you let them make good decisions, they want to and they feel good about it. Another thing is we tend to focus a lot on what they do wrong, constantly correcting, constantly criticizing, constantly. I hear child after child after child tell me I can't do anything right. Why even bother? I give up. And they're so low and
They're
devastated.
defeated.
Self-esteem is so low. And their parents don't realize that they're contributing a lot to that. And when their kids are pushing back, it's not because they disrespect them, it's because they feel disrespected and not heard. And so it's understanding that we need to look at more at what our kids do right. Focus on what they do right. And the brain works in this amazing way that if we're constantly focusing on negative, we're going to constantly see more and more and more and more negative. And then they're going to constantly do more negative. If we focus on what they do right, we start looking for things they do right. Our brain is trained to see things right. And then they start doing more and more and more things actually right.
And they think of the positive, negative.
Yeah. And they feel good and encouraged and want to do more of what's right. So we as parents have an enormous impact on how our kids are reacting to us. And we can't change our kids. We can change how we react to them. And that is so powerful when we do that.
But telling parents the whole issue is kind of them, I bet that's a hard conversation to have.
Ain't easy.
And they'll show you 100 examples of why their kid is the worst.
Yes, they will. And I've actually had parents tell me, oh, I said, look for things positive. And they're like, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to find anything. And I'm like, well, therein lies the problem.
Sorry, even the teen.
So I think, yeah, it is. It's really hard. And I think a lot of parents will bring their teens to me and basically,
make them do it.
Yeah, you fix them, make them do what I ask them to do without me changing how I act. It's not going to
Laugh at them
It's not, no, but I
in your
of
head.
like, yeah, and I just kind of say, it's not going to happen. You can't control your child.
And they get so
I know how much you try. Some don't want to hear it and they're not ready to hear it. Others are completely like, oh my gosh, that's amazing that I actually have more control over the situation than I thought because I'm not trying to control them. I can control myself. And if I can make changes that are going to impact them, that's amazing because I can do that. So I think that aha moment where they're like, if I just change a few things, it's going to make my life and my team's life a lot easier. Well, then you tell me what to do. And that's fun. When I get to that point, it's fun.
But there's sometimes like that first client when you're meeting your first client, like your new clients, you're like,
yeah, I have a few that are not.
like it.
Most people, by the time they call me, know what I'm all about, though.
But there's some
And
people,
so they're a lot of times ready for it. There are
some
lots of times ready.
people are just
Well, they
dragged into it. Like, is that how much you feel it? That the teens are dragged into it?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah. Yeah.
How do people find you?
So
Referrals a lot lately?
mostly referrals now.
Great.
Lately, I've been getting people that have heard my podcast.
With
Dr.
Dr.
K.
Karen, that happens Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:30.
There you go. You have your assistant and your PR girl.
Right.
One last question for you guys to start closing it up, or a couple last questions. What do you think parents can be doing today to fix the relationship with their teens? And from both of you, I want answers from both of you. From a
Yeah,
mom perspective.
I was going to let Alexi go first.
Yeah.
Lexi, so what would you say?
I don't know, just parents, like what my mom said, let them have ownership because we want to be independent. Some of these people, like your teens, are 15, 16, 17, almost 18. And you need to give them more ownership because you want your child to be successful. But when you do want your child to be successful, you keep holding them back. I know it's hard. Just let go. Let your team do it. Let your team make decisions.
Yeah.
Don't assume it's going to be.
I like it.
I like it.
And what about you, Cam? What do you recommend?
One of the most important parenting skills that we can have is the ability to listen. It is one of the most difficult parenting skills to develop and get good at. We love to lecture. We love to, advise and fix and all the things that they do not want. They just want to be heard. They really, really want to be heard. So if we sit there and listen, and then when I say that, a lot of parents go, well, I try and all I get up, I get the grunts whenever I ask.
Just listen in. Don't cut them off when they're talking. Even though you may disagree, don't give them your opinion. Because, I know it's hard.
What are
something they're interested in? I'm interested in musical theater. I have always been interested in musical theater and Broadway. And I'm also interested in TikTok. And my mom has sent some TikToks of me. And I even got her addicted to it.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's meet them where they're at. And so when you talk about things that they love, instead of complaining about how much time they spend on their video games, ask them about their video games. Ask them why they love spending so much time on their video games. What are they learning? Yeah. Ask them about, if they like to skateboard, ask them to show you some moves on their skateboard. If they like TikTok, ask them to share their favorite TikToks with you. I mean, it's really about getting into their world. This is the way to start. And if you get on a topic that they love, I have had the most quiet, just not wanting to talk to me, hands folded person that is just forced to be there, open up because I hit the right topic. And it's all it took. As soon as I hit the right topic, they were off and running. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your time is up. It was like pulling teeth, but you keep trying. You keep trying to find that topic and you find it and boom.
If they're obsessed
if they're obsessed with Broadway.
which I'm more than obsessed.
So it is really just keep trying to find, and not in a but question. It's like one question. If they bite, fantastic. If they don't, cross that off the list and try something else again, right? But if it's a peppered that's going to shut them down fast.
No.
For you both, what's one of your favorite things about each other and something that you admire?
So much.
You go first.
Lexi's like, give me that affirmation.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
I actually like how you are a really strong person. Everything you have been through, you have been really strong no matter what, even though that Christmas tree story does not matter. She went through a lot at that time. She's also a good businesswoman. She's a good, strong person to be around. She's a good friend. She's a good sister. She's a good daughter. She's a mentor to all these teams because she has mentored so much team. And they all love you. Yeah, including me.
I love you the most.
I love you the most.
This girl right here blows me away every single day. Talk about strength, but she also is one of the kindest, most compassionate, thoughtful people I know. She can remember everyone's favorite everything, favorite candy, favorite sports team. And she just is so thoughtful and loves to do gifts that are tailored to that person. The most phenomenal memory I have ever encountered. Like, you ask her something, she'd be like, I was 10, I was wearing this outfit. Remember, Mom, you were doing this. And I'm like, I don't even remember it happening. So,
well, because you're old. Sorry, Mom.
She's also funny. No, I'm admire so much about her. I do.
Thank you. I'm sure we're making all the audience cry right now. Especially moms and daughters, because it's such a special bond. It's one that can be amazing and it's one that can be torturous. I don't know if there's an in between.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But we just grow together. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
So last question for you both. What's something that you're excited for that you're going to build or do, or what's next for you? What's exciting you these days?
I'm excited about when the pandemic finally is over. Me and you are going to spend some time together on a nice vacation, and we're going to, because you like Broadway too. We're big Broadway people.
So we already got tickets.
You're thinking New York for what show?
Jagged Little Pill.
Based off of Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
Cool.
Hopefully it happens.
Yeah, we're hoping it's far enough in the future that our tickets will still be there.
It's like the fall of this year.
Yeah,
So.
it's up for a ton of Tonys, so we're
15.
We wanted to make sure we got tickets before it got won all its Tonys, and then we couldn't get tickets. So we tried. So we're excited about doing that again
because I miss it.
And Dr. Cam, what's exciting you these days?
I am excited for all the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm excited about just
flying.
just building my business and launching a group program for parents so that we can do help a whole bunch of parents at once, because there's a lot of people I'm finding that want help. And I want to make sure I can reach as many people.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about launching that.
I'm excited for her business too.
And last but not least, Dr. Cam, if someone wants to be coached by you or join one of your group programs, where do they find you?
Best place is to go to my website, www.askdrcam.com.
And there's like this little forum that
you can contact me. You have all the information. There's actually a page of all free resources too. So you can go right now and get some of my tips and listen to my show, all that fun stuff.
And you can find her show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and you can also watch it live on Facebook.com.
I have a new marketing person right here.
I come from a marketing background, and anyone who needs to hire marketing, I think that's what they're going to call you for. Well, Dr. Cam and Lexi, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's my first time having two people on at once, and I love the dynamic. I know your mom mentioned that you might join, and I'm so glad you did. I think it enriched the conversation exponentially. And I think you both give a beautiful example of what a great relationship of parents and teens, and also a beautiful story of adoption. So I thank you so much for both of you sharing your story today.
Thank you for letting us
you.
share it. It's fun.